Princess Clara and the Lost Village Boy. One sunny afternoon in the village below the castle's hill, a young boy named Alexander and his 3 friends set out to play hide-and-seek near the forbidden woods. His parents had warned him to stay close and return before dusk, but he paid little heed to their warnings. As his friend Leon counted to 10, Alexander and the others scattered to find hiding spots. One hid behind Leon, another behind a sturdy oak tree, but Alexander, eager to win, sprinted deeper into the woods, farther than he had ever dared before. His heart pounded with excitement as he crouched behind a bush, listening to the distant laughter and calls of his friends. The game was thrilling, but Alexander was determined to outlast them all. As he heard his friends calling his name, he resisted revealing himself, and in his eagerness, ran even deeper into the forest. He had memorized landmarks to guide his return, twisted roots, a fallen log, a moss-covered boulder, but as he dashed forward, glancing over his shoulder, he failed to see the small hill ahead. Before he knew it, he had slipped. Leaves rustled and twigs snapped as he tumbled down the slope, rolling over and landing at the bottom, unhurt but disoriented. He stood, brushing off dirt, and peered up the steep incline. How would he get back? Worse, he could no longer hear his friends. His father's warnings echoed in his mind and anxiety gripped his chest. Just as he was about to call for help, a low, guttural growl made him freeze. Slowly, he turned his head. A wolf, its eyes gleaming with caution, stood protectively before its pup in the hollow of a fallen tree. The mother's fur bristled, her body tense with instinctive aggression. Terror surged through Alexander, and without a second thought he bolted deeper into the forest. The shadows grew darker, the trees more twisted, and the familiar landmarks vanished. Meanwhile, his friends had realized his absence and hurried back to the village, their faces pale with worry. The alarm spread quickly. Alexander's father, overcome with fear, led the villagers in a desperate search, calling his name deep into the night. Lanterns flickered through the trees, voices echoed against the silence, but there was no trace of the boy. By morning, exhausted and disheartened, the villagers returned home, panic settling over the village like a heavy fog. News of the lost child travelled swiftly, reaching the castle before noon. The king, moved by the villagers' plight, summoned his best men. A company of 50 horsemen was assembled, and a reward of 100 gold coins was promised to whoever found and returned the boy safely. Among those who heard the news was Princess Clara. She pleaded with her father to allow her to join the search, but the king hesitated, fearing for her safety. She insisted, her resolve unwavering, and at last he relented on the condition that the elite knight Lucius would ride at her side. Clara wasted no time. She saddled her golden horse and rode at the head of the expedition. 50 soldiers entered the forest, their voices calling for Alexander. Hours passed before one soldier discovered a shred of cloth snagged on a thorn bush. Another found footprints leading to the edge of a hill, but beyond that, the trail vanished. The expedition regrouped, deciding to split into 10 teams of 5. Clara and her group pressed forward, riding deeper into the unknown. Soon they reached an opening, a vast, breathtaking meadow stretching ahead. On the far side of the field stood another forest, darker and denser than the one before. This was no ordinary woodland. It belonged to the ancient elms worn, the hidden guardians of the forest. Their presence was often spoken of in whispered legends among the villagers, though few had ever encountered them. Princess Clara, sensing this place held secrets, urged her horse forward cautiously, her group of soldiers following closely behind. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth as they entered the forest. Sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, casting dancing shadows on the ground. The soldiers called out Alexander's name, but their voices seemed muffled by the towering trees, as if the forest itself was swallowing the sound. Suddenly, a rustling noise caught Clara's attention. She raised her hand, signaling her group to stop. Out from behind a thick tree trunk emerged a young girl dressed in simple, earth-toned garments. Her eyes, the colour of deep amber, regarded them cautiously. She held up a hand, motioning for silence. "Who are you?" Clara asked, her voice steady yet gentle. "I am Leora," the girl replied. "You seek the lost boy?" Clara nodded urgently. "Have you seen him?" Leora hesitated for a moment before motioning for them to follow. "Come, but tread carefully. The woods are not always kind to outsiders." They followed Leora through winding paths, stepping over twisted roots and ducking beneath hanging vines. Soon they reached a small clearing where a group of people, dressed similarly to Leora, stood gathered around a central fire. In the midst of them, sitting on a soft bed of moss, was Alexander. His clothes were torn and dirt-streaked, but he was unharmed. Relief flooded through Clara as she rushed to him. "Alexander!" she called, dismounting her horse and kneeling beside him. The boy looked up, eyes wide with recognition and relief. "Princess Clara!" he gasped. "I got lost and then there was the wolf, and I ran so far I didn't know how to get back. But Leora and her people found me." Clara turned to Leora. "You saved him?" Leora nodded. "The forest led him to us, but now you must leave quickly. You are not the only ones searching for him. There are others, ones who seek the reward, but with darker intentions." A sense of urgency gripped Clara. "Who?" she demanded. Leora's eyes darkened. "Bandits. They saw your expedition enter the forest. They know of the reward, and they will do whatever it takes to claim it." Clara's heart pounded. "We must go, now." The soldiers readied their weapons as Clara helped Alexander onto her horse. Leora and a few of her people led them through a hidden path, one that would take them safely out of the woods. But as they neared the edge of the trees, a shadow loomed ahead. The bandits had found them. Clara's grip tightened on the reins. She glanced at Lucius, who gave a firm nod. There was no avoiding this. They would have to fight their way through to get Alexander home safely. The leader of the bandits, a grizzled man with a scar across his cheek, smirked as he blocked their path. "Hand over the boy, princess," he sneered. "We'll take good care of him." Clara raised her chin defiantly. "You will not touch him!" The forest held its breath as the two sides faced off. The battle for Alexander's safe return was about to begin. The bandits charged, and swords clashed in the dim forest light. Lucius moved swiftly, his blade meeting the enemies with precision, while Clara, though less experienced in combat, wielded her dagger with determination. Arrows flew through the air, some striking trees, others finding their marks. The soldiers fought valiantly, pushing back the bandits, who were relentless in their pursuit of the reward. Just when it seemed the battle would rage on, a sudden horn blast echoed through the trees. More riders approached, reinforcements from the king. The bandits, realizing they were outnumbered, began to retreat into the shadows of the forest, disappearing one by one. With the danger past, Clara turned to Alexander, ensuring he was unharmed. The boy, though shaken, managed a small smile. "Can we go home now?" Clara nodded, relief washing over her. "Yes, Alexander, we're going home." The return to the village was triumphant. The villagers, having waited anxiously, erupted into cheers as Clara and the soldiers rode through the gates with Alexander safely in tow. His mother and father rushed forward, tears streaming down their faces as they embraced their son. The town bell rang, signalling the joyful news to all. The king himself welcomed Clara and the expedition back to the castle, declaring a grand feast in their honour. The village was alive with celebration, torches and lanterns lighting the streets, music and laughter filling the air. Princess Clara, though exhausted, felt a deep sense of pride. She had defied the odds and helped bring a lost boy home. As the night went on and the stars twinkled above, Clara stood on the castle balcony, looking over the joyful village below. She had always longed for adventure, but this journey had taught her something far greater: the strength of kindness, the courage of a united people, and the power of never giving up. As the celebration continued, the king stood before the gathered crowd and made an announcement. "Tonight, we honor not only our brave soldiers and my daughter, Princess Clara, but also the one who helped guide us to Alexander. Leora, step forward." The young girl, hesitant but proud, stepped before the king. The villagers watched in awe as he handed her a heavy pouch filled with gold coins. "You have proven yourself selfless and courageous. As promised, the reward of 100 gold coins belongs to you." Leora accepted it humbly, bowing before the king. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I only did what was right." The villagers cheered, and Clara smiled warmly at her new friend. Leora had not only helped save Alexander, but had also bridged a connection between the hidden people of the forest and the kingdom. And so, the legend of Princess Clara and the lost village boy would be told for generations, a tale of bravery, loyalty, and the unwavering spirit of a kingdom that never abandoned its own.